Guess who's back? Guess who is back? I feel like a wrestler returning at like the Royal Rumble. Remember in WWE? Remember, like they don't still do the Royal Rumble all the time. Like when they have those grand returns in the Royal Rumble, like at the 30th entrance or maybe like the first one. Like that's what I'm feeling like right now. I would tell y'all right now not to say it, but I know y'all aren't gonna say it. I love y'all, man. Thank y'all for being supportive of me. Uh, I had a little bit of a hiatus, as you might have noticed. But baby, it's the return of the Live from Blueland podcast for a special episode in like multiple regards. You know what? I don't even feel like wasting it on the intro. Y'all know how I do. Let me not even do. Why do I do an intro to an intro? Just roll the intro with the cool music and the transitions and the graphics and stuff. I'll see y'all after this. A little hiatus never hurt nobody. And I was just building the anticipation for big number 10. The Live from Blueland podcast is back. The 10th installment, Stanley Cup edition, was on tap for the comeback episode. The Stanley Cup final reaches Game 5 tonight, returning to Sunrise, Florida. The Panthers are looking to finish out the Oilers fast and win their first cup in franchise history, while Edmonton is looking to continue trying to make history. You've been waiting on my thoughts on the Cup too long. Let's talk. I'm an Atlanta hockey fan, and this is Live from Blueland. We're going to talk expansion briefly and what the future looks like. And well, the offseason's coming up. I've never had to make content when there was no season going on. So what's Blueland Aris' content going to look like in the summer? I'm going to touch on it, just like I'm going to touch on Utah HC or whatever the hell they going to call this team. We're not done with that yet either. I'm back, y'all. Ten episodes and y'all keep coming back. That's actually crazy. All these hockey podcasts out here, just podcasts in general, all these sources of entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. You could be watching Max, YouTube, and you choose to listen or on YouTube watch this podcast. It's actually quite remarkable, or maybe it's a disgrace. Maybe it shows how far our podcasts have fallen. It's your boy. You already know I'm back. Aris Brown, better known as Blueland Aris, but y'all know that by now. It's the 10th installment. If you're new here, though, thank you for joining me. This will be the worst podcast experience of your life. You'll probably find a new one halfway through this thing, but nonetheless, this is a very special episode, but it is also the return of the Live from Blueland podcast. It is the Stanley Cup edition. That's what I guess we just gonna call it. That it's gonna be the Stanley Cup edition installment of the Live from Blueland podcast, the comeback episode. It's like a mini anniversary. I'm sure the 50th or the 100th episode. Oh my god, the 100th episode gonna be crazy. Like I gotta get NHLers on this. We gotta go all out for number 100. Who knows how much this will grow before it ends? But 10th is a little mini anniversary because 10 installments. Oh my god. If I would have been on track, I think we would actually be closer to 20. But that's actually a great topic to talk about. So we had a little hiatus there, a little bit of my content as well on TikTok, Instagram, wherever it may be, but on the Live from Blueland podcast, of course, as well. With me just covering the game of hockey because there have been many changes in my life, y'all. If you follow me on Instagram, make sure you do that. I'm Blueland Aris everywhere. As you can imagine, no one was going to take that handle anywhere. But there was many changes in my life, and they were great changes, and I'm really happy with where my professional life's going, things going on in my personal life, family and friends proud of me, just things I'm developing, working on just with my life as a whole, my quality of life, man. I feel blessed. And a lot of great things going on. I told y'all I love hockey. This game saved my life. This is a huge aspect of my life, but it is not my life. It is not all of my life. It is a huge chunk of my life, but even then, as a percentage, it might be 10, 15%. I'm a man who juggles many different things like a clown in the circus, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the things that I've been doing in my life, but I did have to slow down my content in order to prioritize different things. There are things that are going on in my life that are things I've dreamed of since I was a little boy that I'm doing right now, that I'm doing this year. And y'all will see even more of that as it goes on. I'm about to make the biggest purchase in my life, the biggest purchases of my life. And I'm really blessed. and it's just an awesome period in my life. So I had to slow down the content a bit, but I love y'all, and I wanted to open the podcast by saying that because y'all have been so patient with me, and y'all are like, Aris, don't. I remember somebody DM'd me and they were like, Aris, don't ever apologize for doing the things you have to do in your life when you're away from the game of hockey, or when you're away from making content, man. And that's what I loved about building this fan base, and like building our community from zero. When I saw zeros on TikTok, on YouTube, on the podcast downloads, and on Instagram, I loved doing it from zero because I set the groundwork, and everybody who's following me, y'all are people that I absolutely am happy that I invited to be around me and to be a part of this community. And man, I can't even tell y'all how much I love y'all for supporting me, because y'all could do it for anyone, and allow me to take my time, because I come back and post and y'all don't miss a beat. It's like the numbers actually do better than what they were doing before. If I have to take a week or two off, 2.5 weeks off, like, man, y'all be doing y'all thing. So and as long as y'all going hard for me, I'm gonna continue to go hard for y'all, because man, y'all are everything to me. So I appreciate y'all's support. So that was the slowdown in content. But why talk about a hiatus when there's a comeback going on? We back right now for episode 10. Like I said, it's a special edition episode. We got a number of topics to talk about today. You heard them in the intro. I will say maybe a little bit of podcast rust here, considering it's been like a month and a half since the last live from Blueland episode, I'm pretty sure. So maybe a little bit of rust going on here, but I'm feeling good, at least as of right now. I hope it ain't garbage right now for y'all. Let me make sure the camera recording again. I gotta let y'all know I'm very candid. I love our podcast setup. Obviously, when there will be evolutions to this podcast, and it'll be funny to see where we came from in episode 100 and beyond. But I love how candid I can be on this podcast, because y'all love it. If you listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, I appreciate you listening. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm glad you get to see this handsome face, baby. I love it. So we're going to get into... It's been a while since we talked about a number of things. So what's funny is I also felt awkward covering hockey at this time of year, and I shouldn't have, considering it's the Stanley Cup final. But y'all gotta keep in mind, like, it's a weird world when you're like a content creator too, because like it's like you don't have as many. I'm not talking about 32 teams anymore, so that's a shift I'm definitely gonna work on in year 2 and year 3. This was my rookie season as a content creator. I started this account when the season started, so this was my rookie year as a content creator. Did I win the Calder? I hope I won the Calder. So, but I felt awkward covering the Stanley Cup playoffs, because it's a different dynamic. Not so much the playoffs at first, but like as the rounds went on, it's just less and less teams. You're not covering 32 teams anymore. There's not as many storylines. It's game to game. It's like, should I cover every game? Do people want to see that? How much stress is that going to put on me? Y'all got to keep in mind, I got a job, and I got a great one too. I got a social life, everything else. So. I was like, am I going to cover every game? No, that's probably too much. Are people even going to see that? So it was weird covering the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then especially when you get into the Western Conference final, the Stanley Cup final. It's kind of a bit more awkward, because it's like especially the current Cup final we have going on right now. I don't know. It just felt kind of awkward. But what I should have did was I should have absolutely had a episode before, and just content in general before the Cup even started. So that was a blunder for me, and I just regret that. But nonetheless, it's not that bad. It's all right. We're back right now. And the reason I regret it though is because y'all didn't get to hear my thoughts on the Cup. You got to hear them briefly on Instagram again if you follow me on there at Blueland Aris. But outside of that, you didn't get to hear me do my thing, go through the rest of my content. That's what I typically do, and I didn't do that going into the Cup, and I have a regret over that. So, but nonetheless, Stanley Cup final going on right now. I did make a TikTok post. I guess I did do it. I did put something up on TikTok and Reels, I'm pretty sure too, where I did talk about going into the Stanley Cup, because that was a mandatory video I had to do. And yeah, this Stanley Cup is exactly what I said in that post. This matchup is the crossroads of the game. So obviously, hey man, this is the pinnacle of the sport. So we're talking about the Stanley Cup final first. And we're going into game 5 tonight in Sunrise, Florida, not far from my grandmama's house and my extended family. So shout out to them. Going into game 5 tonight. And if you told me we were going into a game 5 in the series, I'd have been like, yeah, I expect us to go more. We may not go more. We may not go more, and I damn well didn't think we were going to be going into it with anyone up 3-1. As I said on, again, Instagram, I did call the Cats in 6. Sure, that can still happen, but they got a chance to close this out tonight back at the I think the practice facility is called the Ice Den, so you can't call it that. But back at their in their building in South Florida, the place with 6 fans, and that people said that hockey would not work. But remember when I told you this was the crossroads of the game: Edmonton, Alberta, Canada versus South Florida, Sunrise, Florida. It's longest distance between 2 Stanley Cup opponents in the league, in the history of the league. So we, just an interesting matchup going on here. But man, how about this Stanley Cup final thus far, dude? Like, I mean, you want to talk about the Panthers going up 2-0. I was like, okay, the Oilers will respond in Edmonton, but it was more of like they better respond. When they went down 3-0, I was like, you're freaking joking, right? It's a similar thing. I didn't really watch the NBA finals like that. But when the Mavs went down, 3-0 to the Celtics, I was like, you're joking, right? Because neither one of the finals going on right now should have been 3-0 series for anyone. Even if it was vice versa, it should not have been 3-0. So it was just shocking to see that. And obviously the Mavs mustered a game, beat the living hell. Everybody's like the NHL and the NBA got the same damn script. For real, they got the same writer's room. Because what the hell? The Mavs won by 38 in their game 4. And then the Oilers put up a touchdown plus a 2-point freaking conversion. Bro, I don't know what the Panthers were doing. And this is a Panthers team that looked like they were going to give up like 3 goals in 4 games in a sweep. the way that they were playing defense. So early on in those first 2 games, obviously the first game was 3-0, and then I think the second game was 4-1 that the Panthers won. Am I getting that right? I'm pretty sure that's what the scores to those games were. Game 1, 3-0 Panthers. Yes. Game 2, 4-1 Panthers. So yeah. And the story was Bob standing on his head. Bobrovsky electrifying throughout the playoffs, going into the series, trying to make a statement. I'm back in the Stanley Cup final. I've built quite a legacy for myself as a 2-time Vezina winning goaltender. I have a prime opportunity right now to be the starting goaltender of a team that's about to win their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. I'm not letting this slide. And he was a brick wall. You would have an easier time trying to get a beach ball to fit into a wedding ring than getting a puck past Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm not even joking. You just couldn't get anything past him. He was remarkable, and he's doing this to an Edmonton Oilers team that has arguably, the best player on the planet, Connor McDavid. I don't even want to really say arguably. I can, this season, not McDavid. See, my brain wouldn't even allow me to say that. My brain was like, no, it is him. It auto-corrected, but, Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov. But nonetheless, Connor McDavid, the best player in the sport, and there's still another Hart Trophy winner on that team. There's still a 50-goal scorer on that team with Shaq Hyman. But yeah, I mean, it was looking on early in their series, and that was why I picked the Panthers in 6, is because the defense of the Florida Panthers, when they were giving the New York Rangers in the series, finishing that series with a 1-goal game, 2 2-goal games. They had a 5-goal game in there. Like, they were limited. They were shut out in the first game in their series as well. When the Rangers were having trouble, the Boston Bruins played the Florida Panthers, at one of the best offensive teams as well. The Panthers faced offensive weapons this postseason, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they were shutting them down. And I was like, their defense is just too much. I had to say this against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, if you recall, I got both of my conference final predictions wrong. I don't know if you remember that. I got both of my conference final predictions wrong. I picked the Rangers in 6 and the Stars in 6, and that's how they both went home. What the hell? So then I go into a series where it's 2 teams that I didn't pick. Not that it's shocking that either one of these it's not shocking that either one of these teams got there, but I did not pick either one, and I had to pick someone. And it was awkward to bet against the Oilers with the story that they built. But I was looking at the Panthers. It's hard for a team to see, we're shaking off some rust here. It's hard for a team in any sport to go to back-to-back championships and lose both of them. I think they learned from their experience last year with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they were coming out here with vengeance and that championship pedigree and experience, and everybody who wasn't a part of that club last year just chipping in how they're supposed to. People like Vladimir Tarasenko, for example. And I was just thinking, the way they produce offensively and are not wavered, and then go just as hard, if not harder, on defense and fluster some of the best offenses in the league. It troubled me with a team who doesn't have as good of a goaltender as Bobrovsky, it's a luxury to have a Bobrovsky, but with Stuart Skinner and whose defensive core, we've been talking about that for Edmonton since the turn of the century, pretty much. And obviously I was barely around for that, but like it's the Darnell Nurse. I don't even want to talk about Darnell Nurse. I'm not going to sit up here right now. And I know Oilers fans listening to this right now are like, please don't even talk about him. Or maybe you are like, please talk about him. But I don't even want to talk about Darnell Nurse right now. But their defensive core is not what Florida has. So I was like, Florida's going to be able to execute their offense, and if they can fluster somehow McDavid and Draisaitl and RNH and Hyman, and if they can get them off their game, they're going to win this series. They flustered the other damn offenses. They're going to have a chance to do it here. I was like, the Oilers are going to push them, which I hope, they can still push them. That's why I call it the Cats in 6, but it might be less than 6, baby. However, I will say, that last game for the Panthers, you got to put your foot back on the gas going home right now. And I know they're going to be motivated to play tonight. But losing 8-1 was not a good look. Now, you could say this for the Boston Celtics as well, who lost by 40 in their Game 4, went to Game 5, and beat the hell out of the Mavericks last night to win their 18th NBA championship. So you could see that from the Panthers tonight, 7-0 win over the Oilers. Like, it could be just something crazy. 5-1, 6-2, dominate them. So that's very much within the realm of possibility. But now you've got Connor McDavid really getting into the swing of things. He didn't get a point, I believe, in the first game. He did in the second game. In the third game, I think he had two assists, or maybe he assisted on all the goals. And then in the last game, he had a 4-point game, 1 goal and 3 assists, if I'm not mistaken. Boy, I'm a statistician. I'm a stat god. This is Connor McDavid we talking about. Now he's like, first of all, I'm the best player in the world. He may not get cocky about it, but he knows it. And if he gets in the swing of things and Draisaitl will get in the swing of things, I'm going to be honest, Florida. Like I said, going into this series, I said, that's a long flight. What is it, 7.5 hours, 8 hours? That's a long flight. Florida, you don't want to get back on that plane. And you damn well don't want to be back in there. That team was down 3-0. Did you hear how loud it was in Edmonton before the game? Going into the national anthem and everything. Y'all, I had to turn my TV down at home. The damn audio was clipping, and it wasn't even that high. The TV was on 15. That's how loud it was in Edmonton. I had to fix the conditions in my own home. It was so loud. Florida, you don't want to go back to that. It's going to be loud in Sunrise tonight too. So, this is not a series. I want to say, we've got a hell of a series, an interesting series. We kind of don't. It's 3-1. It's been a beatdown, but a win from Edmonton tonight. Oh, damn. We've got a whole different landscape in regards to this series than we thought, 72 hours ago, 96 hours ago. It is completely different that fast. Hope that was a good snap, and I hope that came up on the mic, because sometimes they be doing the noise cancellation. So, I don't know what else to tell the Panthers. This has been like more of a quiet series for Matthew Tkachuk, but he hasn't needed to be loud. You need the typical people to show up tonight. Sasha Barkov, I don't think has been like overly loud in this series. Had a good game 4. I'm sorry. He had a good game 3. Game 4, I think he did nothing. And they did nothing. VT had that one redirect goal, but after that, I mean, it was nothing, and that made it 2-1, and then they just got smacked out of the gates in Edmonton. I was like, if you're gonna win one, dude, y'all gotta win one. Damn, you can't get swept in this series, and they did not. Out of the gates, Connor Brown made a hell of a play with patience behind Bobrovsky. It was a 2-on-1 situation, and I forget who scored. Matthias Janmark, I think, scored the first one, and then the second one was Evan Bouchard. If I got those, that's remarkable. I forget, and they went up 2-0 really early in the game, and I was like, they're gonna beat they about to beat the hell out of them today. But Florida answered, and my dad was like, they're going to come back and everything. And I was like, yeah, they should come back. But, I mean, Edmonton needs to win this game. Florida did not come back. If this was an 8-1 game, that's one of the biggest beatdowns in the NHL as a whole this season. It's one of the biggest beatdowns in the NHL as a whole this year. We will see if the Oilers can ride that momentum into the next game. Again, not that these leagues and sports are linked like that. But it is funny how the NBA and NHL Stanley Cup finals and the finals, like game by game, matched up with each other. And, the Mavs beat the Celtics essentially by 40 in that game 4, went into game 5, and lost by 20 last night. Finals over. Could we see the same thing with the Stanley Cup final tonight? Just because I was blown out 3 days ago, well, today is not only a new day, it's a new day times 3. That was 3 days ago. I'm not eating the same meals today, likely. Well, people got the same game day routine, so I can't even say that. But I didn't wake up the same today. Well, people got the same sleep routine. The point, damn, is that it's not the same damn day. How about that? Because I didn't even go to the NHL. I was playing AA, AAA, merger tournaments and stuff like that. And I was doing it. I ain't going to lie. I was eating the 3-meat lasagna with the different cheese. I was eating that all the time. Took that on the road with me. That was my game day meal. Okay. The fruit punch Gatorade. Oh, come on now. I know some, if we had the doubleheader games, the Big Bear tournaments. I know USA Hockey know what I'm talking about. The Big Bear tournaments and everything. I'm going to take a quick nap in between, power nap. And I haven't been playing hockey now for 6 years. So, now I love to take naps. I used to not even take naps back then, but I used to have to force myself. But if I was tired, I didn't have to force myself nonetheless. But it's a new day is what I'm saying. So we will see. That has no bearing on today. It's going to be a new game. By the way, when you're seeing this, if you see this before the game, I'll be going live on TikTok for the third period and the third period alone. Why? It's because I'll be working during the game. The luxury of working at home, but I got a number of things to do after I finish recording this podcast, so I'm still going to be working throughout the day. But I can't even say it's going to be it's been an exciting series, guys. The Panthers went up 3-0 and kind of convincingly. Now, what the Oilers did do was at the end of game 3, they showed life and they almost came back and won that game, but they didn't, and that's why they went down 3-0. The Panthers were dominating. It was 4-1, then it was 4-3, but the Oilers could not finish them off. Right? I think I said that. I think I said that right. And I'm saying that because I fell asleep during the game. Again, y'all, I've been working. I've been tired, but it's good naps and it's good sleep. So it's all good. In game 5, they carried. We picked up a little bit momentum. We made it be down 3-0, but let's go into game 4. We got to get one. We got to do this. What did Stuart Skinner say? If anybody can do it, it's the Oil. They went in there and they beat the life out of the Panthers. Can they carry that momentum over again? 3-day break. How you feeling? To both sides. So, we'll see what happens. I know everybody was looking for my thoughts on the Stanley Cup. They're thinking, Ayers, it looks like you're going to get this one right. Once again, probably not going to get the games right. When I get series right, I typically never get it by games, but I do pick the series right. I already am not winning my bracket challenge league. Shout out to everybody in the Blueland Ayers bracket. Our one next year will be bigger. The year after that, there will be a ton of people in there in subsequent years. But to all, I think 18 of us in there, remember I said I just cannot come in last in my damn league. I should finish like top 6, top 5, top 4. I did what I could. That was pretty good. I ain't gonna lie, that was pretty good. That was like, even if it was like I'm finishing in the top third. So, but I wanted to get first. I was doing so well. God, I was doing so well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry I made you wait so long to hear from me. So what I will do is this is the Live from Blueland podcast, the 10th anniversary, the 10th episode anniversary, and Stanley Cup edition. So what I will do is, because I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, Ayers, you typically upload on Saturdays and Sundays. Well, I got the pod going up on a Tuesday. But if the Panthers win tonight, I think I'm gonna I might do another episode tomorrow. I ain't gonna lie, that's probably gonna be TikTok content. You probably gonna have to wait until the weekend for that. I ain't gonna lie, because then I can cover like the parade and stuff too. Yeah, never mind. But you will get a post Stanley Cup like podcast episode as well. That will be episode 11. So excited, looking forward to that. Let me tell you something though. Florida Panthers, I can't imagine. I told the Boston Bruins this, and they blew a 3-1 to y'all last year, as you remember. And I told this when they almost blew another 3-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. The Florida Panthers, you were dealing with a different weapon here. There's 2 Hart Trophy winners on that side. This will be the biggest collapse in professional sports history. You better finish this damn series. I'm not playing with y'all. Your fans will never live this down. Your players will never live this down. And y'all will not come back and will yourselves do another cup after this. I don't give a damn how strong-willed you are. Ain't nobody strong enough to not be demoralized by that. This will be the biggest blown lead in professional sports history. You better go win this damn cup. And they will. Let's be real. Unfortunately for Edmonton fans, y'all lost this series. I'm not gonna lie. Too little, too late. I don't even care if y'all force a game 6. You can't start this damn late. You had to be somewhere at 7, and you started your drive at 6:55. I ain't gonna lie, playa. You're late. So, but let's talk about what the impact would be for the aftermath of the Stanley Cup, because like I told y'all, this is the crossroads of hockey. Canada, the birthplace of hockey. Edmonton, Alberta, this is the roots of the game. Hockey passion, it runs deep there. It's heritage. It's a legacy thing there. Versus hockey was a sport that was born on frozen ponds, put in major arenas and in a controlled environment, and now it can go anywhere, regardless if people want to talk about traditional markets or whatever the hell. And now it made it in decades ago. You can look at the product of it. It still is in Sunrise, Florida, and flourishing. You can call them fair weather fans or whatever the hell you want, but that is a place where people said it would never work, it would never succeed. They needed to relocate the team, and now they're moving the goalposts. No one's down there, hockey fans. No one cares about it. Well, if no one cares about it, then the fair weather conversation shouldn't even be up. If it's a sport they hate and they don't care about, they wouldn't show up even if the team was good. So you got caught in a lie. This is the crossroads of the sport. North versus the South. And I want to illustrate that. If the Florida Panthers win this, I was having this conversation with someone in my DMs. I have a number of Florida Panthers fans that follow me. I'm in the South, so a lot of them are all for like the Southern market, Southern markets. And Florida and Georgia are sibling states, so I get it. And a lot of us share a lot of family. If you in Atlanta, you got family in Florida. If you in Florida, you got family in Atlanta. So come on now. And I have Panthers fans that will be like, we're excited to win this cup, especially for the growth of hockey down here. And I really want to illustrate that to hockey fans, because when the Florida Panthers win this Stanley Cup, I want you to watch the boom in hockey that happens in South Florida. This is why the NHL goes to markets like that. That's why. You have kids down there that without an NHL team, they're going to play football. They're going to play basketball, baseball. They're going to play soccer, football. They're picking other sports. But then you put an NHL team in a market, and sometimes that's all it takes. And we've seen that. Austin Matthews in the desert, whatever. But the Panthers are going to win this Stanley Cup. And a kid's been watching them all season, getting more into hockey. And he just saw an NHL team in his youth win a Stanley Cup, have a parade through South Florida. It's going to ignite something different in him to go to his parents and say, I want to try hockey. And they're going to take him to a local rink, and he's going to try hockey, play it, and you're going to be amazed where he goes with the game. He might just go to the NHL, and y'all don't know it yet. That's why the NHL goes to markets like this. The impact of the Florida Panthers winning this Stanley Cup will be monumental. And if you don't want the NHL going into more non-traditional markets, after it just went to Vegas last year, it went to Florida this year, and I don't know if you noticed, but in the Eastern Conference, the Stanley Cup, and the path to go to the Stanley Cup runs through the state of Florida. You might have forgotten about the Florida Panthers' big brother. However, they're not feeling like the little sibling anymore right now, but their bigger sibling, the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm sure you all remember that. A multitude of cups in their franchise history. If you didn't want hockey going to the South, I don't know. I think the hockey gods have already made up their mind that it's going to stay in the South. And not to make this about us or about me, because my team doesn't exist right now. But if you don't want that, because I can bring Houston in this too, but the NHL's looking at that, and wow, this is a whole lot of success going to markets that are non-traditional. If you're watching me on YouTube, that don't bode well for some of y'all who don't want that to happen. If Edmonton can come back and win this cup, now, first of all, it would be the greatest comeback in sports history, and I don't even need to illustrate that more. With every passing game they win, I will make a video, because the Panthers, if Edmonton wins this, it would end Canada's cup drought. But when Edmonton unfortunately loses this cup, unfortunately for Oilers fans, like I don't have any stake in this, but like if when Edmonton loses this cup, I wonder how people will talk about McDavid's legacy. How will this, when's he going to get his first? We've been asking this for a minute. When's he going to get his first cup? How does this affect Draisaitl's future? And then Canada's cup drought continues. You went in this year with four franchises that arguably were all contenders. I know the Leafs never damn do it, and the Jets kind of fall into that territory too as the Leafs. But you got four contenders that were very viable options to bring it home. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets, the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers. And the Oilers got here, and if they lose in 5, it's not a great look because this should have been a longer series than that, a minimum of 6, like how I predicted. And that can still happen, but it extends Canada's cup drought. And you hear people talk about the Canadian dollar's weaker, the future of the game and stuff like that. And how there's smaller markets in Canada, and Canadians tell you this too. If you're in Quebec City, as much as you berate Arizona and Atlanta and other places, that's not a good. You should be mad at Edmonton. Like I tell y'all need to be mad at your neighbors in the north, not us. It is not a good look. I know not all of Canada is rooting for the Oilers because there's rivalries up there. Flames said, to hell with y'all. We ain't rooting for y'all. Canucks fans said, hell no. We're not rooting for y'all. And some of the other Canadian markets, but some of them were rooting for the Oilers because they want the Canadian Cup drought to end in terms of franchises. It's not a good look for the NHL in terms of where they would put their teams next. There is an aftermath that will come from whoever wins and whoever loses the Stanley Cup final. And we might be done in a short few hours. It's noon when I'm recording this, so we'll see what happens. Don't think it doesn't have implications. Speaking of the aftermath and how it can affect where the game goes, and this is the crossroads of the game. Can we talk about expansion real quick after I sip on some water? You got to be long-winded to do this, y'all. I don't even really want to talk about expansion. Are you upset by me saying that? Remember when I told y'all going into the playoffs, I was like, yeah, I'm in a phase where I'm transitioning a bit away from expansion talks because of the emphasis on the playoffs, and I've done that. Yeah, I didn't even want to talk about expansion, but I could have talked about this like last week. It was reported apparently by Pierre LeBrun. I got this from Puck Empire, and I think it happened. I did not even see the clip on it, and I didn't want to watch the presser because it would have taken too long. I didn't want to scroll through that just to find a damn clip, and it wasn't time stamped and everything on YouTube. I wasn't trying to watch that. So, but as you know, the commissioner Gary Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley have media pressers, and they meet with the media, have media availability anytime the NHL has a major event. They'll do it at the Four Nations tournament next year, but the All-Star game, like anytime they have a major event going on, the NHL draft, they meet with the media. The return of the season, whatever the hell. And they meet with the media. A question must have come up to Gary Bettman, and I knew this was coming up, but I did not think that they were going to ask about expansion when this media press conference happened with the commissioner and deputy commissioner. I was just like, this is the Stanley Cup. They're going to ask about the Stanley Cup, the two markets, stuff like that, how happy they are, the viewership, I'm sure, like stuff like that. I did not expect expansion talks to come up at a time like that, so I was like, they're not going to talk about that today. I'm sure they could, but they will not. Sure enough, they did, and I'm guessing this is where it took place because apparently Pierre LeBrun reported that the NHL, I guess by word of Gary Bettman, because I believe I read this as well too later on, had said they were not ready or were not, like they were not interested at the moment to start. It's basically the same thing they've been saying, but they're just like still not ready and interested to start the expansion process at this time. And they were like, despite it being half a dozen cities, or a little over half a dozen as well. So I wanted to talk about expansion, but I wanted to keep it brief because, obviously I'm Blueland Heirs. I'm campaigning for a return to the NHL to the city of Atlanta. But I'm not the one that brought this up, or I'm at the forefront of it along with a number of other people here in Atlanta. But I didn't bring this up and start a petition here in Atlanta. I think I signed one. Shout out to NHL to Atlanta, but I didn't start the petition to get the NHL back to the city. The NHL are the ones that started looking back over here, meeting with Vernon Krause and the group behind the gathering at South Forsyth, meeting with Alpharetta Sports and Entertainment Group behind Anson Carter. They're the ones that did that. I make content and I campaign for it, and I show people, listen, it was a screw up the first 2 times, but it wasn't on the city of Atlanta. I don't give a damn what y'all try to paint it. I live here. I was born and raised here. I tell y'all what the narrative is. I was here for it. But that don't mean that third time can't be a charm, that the third time's not a charm. So that's what I was doing. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. But, so obviously I'm all for expansion in due time. But people will ask me, oh, Aris, when do you think it's happening? When's it coming? What do you think our chances are? And Commissioner Bettman, for the last year, regardless of him meeting with, the multiple ownership groups here in Atlanta, Bill Daley as well, and meeting with other representatives and ownership groups, prospective owners from other cities too, like he did with Ryan Smith and how they got the relocated Arizona Coyotes. I'll be talking about him in a moment. Nonetheless, Commissioner Bettman has been just giving like the same answer. Oh, we're not starting a formal expansion process at this time. So I'm at the point where it was like on my Instagram story, I posted the song with Selena Gomez because I love that song. When you ready, come and get it. Because the city of Atlanta, it's not that episode of SpongeBob where we're going to pick up Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else. Atlanta's not going to move. So, we going to be here. And with every passing year, like how we host Copa America tournament this week. Messi's out here in Atlanta right now. Argentina's about to play soon. He's actually at Kennesaw State apparently practicing. My boys were just texting me in the group chat. They going crazy over there, Dan. That's my alma mater. Hootie hoo. But we host Copa America this year. We host the MLB All-Star Game next year. College Football National Championship again next year. Only city to host it twice, baby. We do this. World Cup host. One of the host sites in 2026. We just get to show more and more that we're a world-class sports city, and none of our teams are getting up and leaving either. There's one missing puzzle piece, and it will be the NHL. But the NHL named Atlanta, as always, Houston as always. I think one that wasn't named was Quebec City, which was weird to me because they kept getting named, and then they weren't. But nonetheless, you got to think Quebec City's going to try for it nonetheless. Arizona, they'll return there. Alex Morello trying to revive it, or if someone else picks it up as well, too. Oklahoma City out of nowhere, along with New Orleans out of nowhere. Kansas City, I think Milwaukee and Portland finally had somebody step up. Like there was multiple places, but the NHL was like, we're not ready. So I want to tell people expansion is a long process. If you've ever seen it in sports, and if you've been blessed to see it in any sport, come to your city. And Atlanteans, you got to remember, I was in 8th grade when Atlanta United, when we finally got an MLS team. I asked that my whole childhood, why the hell don't we have an MLS team? And Atlanta United came my 8th grade year and only started playing my junior year. And they're a young franchise. So it's a process. So you got to allow the process to take place. And this is not something you can rush. And if you're in Atlanta, considering our plight, you shouldn't want the league to rush. So I'm not going to keep pressing. Like, I'm going to make expansion content when it's appropriate. I'm not going to keep just talking about it when there's not enough to talk about. But trust me, I want everybody who follows your boy Blueland Aris, I want everybody who follows me on TikTok, Instagram, you listen to my podcast, YouTube. When the time is appropriate, I will cover expansion and the return that is going to happen to this city every step of the way. And there will be a time when, damn it, that will be at the forefront of the conversation. And trust me, I'm going to do my due diligence covering it. Y'all can bank on that. So that's my expansion talk. It's just not time right now, but it will be. I got some other stuff to talk about just briefly before we transition out and finish the show off. I'm actually a guest for the first time, or I was a guest. You will see the episode very soon on the Post Huggers podcast. That is the first podcast I was ever a guest on, so I'm really excited for those episodes to come out. I will link those so that you guys can see it. Really excited about that. Shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network, an amazing network, I must say. So shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network, and shout out to Goldie and Steve for having me on. We did 2 episodes, and I'm really excited for you guys to see both of those. So stay tuned for those, and they will likely be on that. Very likely be on the Live from Blueland podcast. I'm going to start having guests on very soon, and we're coming back with a big return. We've got our first 10 episodes. I got my feet wet. All right, let me show you what else I can do. I'm a very versatile player. So that's coming up soon. And then, like I said, I wanted to cycle back to a specific man. We were talking about expansion. This man wanted an expansion team, but he said, I'll take a team by any means I can get one. He kind of got a relocation expansion. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. I know about that. My team was born that way. But I want to talk about this man, who got an NHL team, but can't get a name, huh? Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith, shout out to you, my boy, for bringing those Jazz jerseys back. Not necessarily bringing them back, but doing a modern rendition of them. Best uniforms in the league immediately just because of that. Everybody was hyping those up. Beautiful. 4 beautiful jerseys. I mean, just remarkable. Me and my boys were like, I mean, that is what a sports jersey is supposed to be, damn it. I mean, oh, man, he got it right. The whole team got it right. Everybody who's on the design team, excellent work. But we've got a team now playing in Salt Lake City that was formerly the Arizona Coyotes, and it are now, for the moment, Utah Hockey Club. What did I tell you? What did I tell y'all? I guarantee because it's an option, they're going to pick that. Now, they're saying that's not the permanent name, but it's still a name option, meaning they can still go with that. I made, I think, multiple episodes where I had segments talking about, I swear to God, Utah. Y'all are going to be one of the most disliked franchises in the NHL. Pick Utah HC and see what happens. Actually, please pick it because people already hate a return to Atlanta. You will make us look so good. People will be like, "Oh, at least it's a team with a actual jersey, not a practice jersey and a good name." Please pick Utah HC. Make us look good in due time. Please do it. I'm begging y'all. So I do want to say though, I believe they're down to their final 6 names, and it's like the fact that Utah HC is one of them, but I think the Blizzard is one of them. Venom is one of them. I think Outlaws was one of them. There was another one that made the finalists. Oh, Mammoth. Mammoth was one. What the hell? You remember my comments on that too. And then the other one was the one they have to pick and you have to imagine is going to win. Yeti. Now, I want to talk about how my thoughts have changed on that name specifically. You guys were like, I was like, if you're going to pick Yeti, it has to be Yetis. I think they even trademarked Yetis at first, like plural, because I was like, why is it not Yetis plural? I had to marinate on that. If you don't know, you're going to hear it again. If you know, you're going to hear it again. If you don't know, you're going to hear it for the first time. My favorite brand in all of sports is the Seattle Kraken. I think that's the coolest brand in sports. One day I wanted to start my own sports league and call a team the Kraken. They were going to be the Toronto Kraken. I saved that name for them because a squid has 6 arms. Toronto is the 6. Toronto is the 6. 6 arms, the crack. I was like, it'll be the Toronto Kraken. I did not call it the Krakens. So I was being hypocritical about the Yeti. Because you can't be the Kraken, which is one mythological squid, and not be one abominable snowman. So they are allowed to be Yeti. I had to revise what I said. They are allowed to be the Yeti. I'm going to be completely real. I had to get over that. So my thoughts have changed. Those other segments didn't age well because now it looks like I have split personality disorder. What doesn't make sense is Mammoth. Now, I will say, this is a spoiler for my episode on the Post Huggers podcast, but Mammoth, Mammoth is also an adjective. Something can be mammoth in size, not just a mammoth as in the woolly mammoth. So you can kind of get away with that. However, it's still awkward with the imagery too. Like, I get it, but it's awkward, the imagery. It was like I said in the other episode. Y'all gonna be one woolly mammoth altogether. Y'all gonna be one furry elephant. The Pittsburgh Penguin. The Florida Panther. The Anaheim Duck. Like, just one. It's still awkward. It's awkward. I'm glad they didn't pick something like the damn powder. Like, Ryan Smith is just playing in our faces. I'm not going to lie. Like, bro, don't play with me like I'm an idiot. And like all of us are idiots. Utah, picked the right name. I don't want to have to keep having this name conversation with y'all. First of all, I don't even want to hear that Utah, it's a process getting trademarks and everything. No. Gary Bettman even exposed that Ryan Smith had been very aggressive and, he'd been very interested in acquiring an NHL franchise, and we pursued these talks back in 2022. So for 2020, for 2 years, you've been pursuing trying to buy an NHL team, either having one relocated or through expansion. And you had an LLC and everything, same way you attach these trademarks currently to your LLC. And in 2 years, you knew by some way you were going to get an NHL team, relocation or expansion. And that whole time, you didn't have no prospective names or name ideas. And that whole time, well, let me tell you something. Houston, and this is a different dynamic because of Houston, I think the IHL or something, I forget what the Arrows were in, but Houston had a professional hockey team. Atlanta had the Thrashers. Quebec had the Nordiques. Arizona had the Coyotes. So they're different dynamics. They kind of got names that were already used. But the fact that all of them could be like the teams that get us to 32, those are the cities that could get us to 36 teams, and they all got names before Utah does? No, sir. That's unacceptable. Y'all relocated from a team that was playing in a college rink, but you relocated the Arizona Coyotes, which at least they got the jerseys and the branding rights, and you relocated that franchise to be in Salt Lake City, and they ain't got a name. They got practice jerseys. They don't have a logo, and they playing in a building where you can't even sit behind the damn net. It's not a good look. So I want to talk about my content transitioning into the offseason now. So with the Stanley Cup final going on right now, it's a really interesting time for me, like just making content, because I don't know if y'all noticed, but this is kind of like the grand finale of the season, so it's a curtain call. I started my content like right when the season started in 2023, right when this season started. So I don't know what it's like making content at all when there's not a season going on. The only time I know what it's like making content when there's not games going on is like that winter break in the holiday season, and then the All-Star break when there's no games. Outside of that, I don't know what it's like when there's not games going on. So I know some people are probably wondering, well, like, or if you haven't even thought about that yet, I'm sure when that final game hits, you probably were going to think about it. What kind of content are you going to make throughout the summer? And luckily, this is the world of sports, so like nothing ever stops moving. Like we got a free agency period coming up. We got the draft coming up, so it's not like there's not going to be topics. And it feels long for us as fans too, sometimes in the off season. But the off season will go by kind of fast. But I do want to say, don't expect a dip in the content that I'm going to be making. I have a number of creative ideas, and I'm really making a push for like engaging like people in the sport of hockey in the offseason that typically like didn't watch it before, and I'm really excited about that, especially Gen Z, because the NHL's youth demographics are garbage. However, they're doing like an upswing right now, and I feel like I'm a perfect face and individual to contribute to that upswing as well. So I got a number of interesting topics that I literally saved. Like, for example, I saved for the offseason because they were not appropriate to talk about during the season. Otherwise, I don't have offseason content. Like, I want to do my top 10 players of all time, my top 10 favorite players of all time, because it's different, like ranking NHL logos, 5 reasons to start watching the NHL next year. And I'm just giving y'all like video ideas and like content that I'm going to be doing in general. But like, it's like, that's stuff that I want to do. And I saved it for the off season because when there's downtime, it's content filler, but let's be real, y'all gonna watch it. Everybody wants to hear that from me. And also I can get into like more personal aspects, because let's be real, in Blueland Airs, y'all have heard me talk about a potential return to Atlanta, the NHL expanding to specific cities that are on their list, and cities, prospective list, and then covering all 32 teams throughout the season in the quest to get to where we're at now for the Stanley Cup. But y'all haven't heard me talk about like my favorite players too much, or like what I think about everybody's uniforms, or just like topics like that are kind of like, it's almost like when you chilling with your boys at the crib and like y'all just playing video games, or like y'all out somewhere eating, and it's just like, it's like one of those topics that you can always talk about. They're timeless topics in sports. So y'all haven't heard me do that, but you're gonna get a summer full of that. So that's what my content in the off season is gonna look like. So don't think that I'm going anywhere or I'm gonna be gone and it's like, all right, see y'all in October, unless it's the draft or unless some other news comes out, free agency. No, y'all gonna get some posts out of me. I will say for the live from Blueland podcast, there will be an interesting transition, and also there will be a big, not necessarily change, but there will be a big evolution in this podcast coming up soon. And I'm excited to reveal all of that to y'all as well. But we're gonna keep on pushing through the summer. And I ain't going nowhere except maybe on TikTok because it might get banned. But what's not gonna get banned is the live from Blueland podcast. I think that's all my topics. I'm pretty sure. Is that really it? Hey, listen, if I forgot anything, it's going to be on Instagram and TikTok. 10 freaking episodes. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I appreciate everything y'all doing. Y'all been getting my content going crazy on Instagram and TikTok. And I just really appreciate that. I really appreciate y'all. So hope this wasn't too rusty of an episode 10. We're coming back with episode 11, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. We're either going to be talking about a champion, or we're going to be talking about a series that's still going on. That probably shouldn't be. It's your boy. I'm going to tap back in with y'all in the next episode.